Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of r/Pettyrevenge. Make construction noise over allowed hours and steal my electricity without asking. Thank you for my new extension cords. So there's a new house construction on the lot next to mine. Moving in a new development 2 years ago, I knew I'd have construction around me sooner than later. As expected, there's a new house getting built on the lot next to mine. Bit of a bummer for me seeing construction started on my first day of vacation, but what can you do? Noise hours in my town are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. during weekdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, and no construction and/or industrial noises on Sunday. Despite this, they work 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. The town's doing nothing because the sole inspector is in vacation. Police don't care anyway, where the kind of town police response is measured in days. Neighbors have lodged official complaints. I tried talking with the builders, but to no avail. Thursday I walked outside to see them using my exterior outlets for their air compressor and other tools. I had a talk with them and the GC was rude AF, eventually apologized and told me it wouldn't happen again. Yesterday I came home late in the evening after being out all day to see multiple extensions cords plugged in all my exterior outlets. The builders had already left, but the cords remained. I turned off the breakers, I should have thought about it sooner tbh, and took the extension cords at my parents' place. 5 very nice 100-foot exterior grade 12-gauge cords. Dad kept 2, my brother took 2 home today, and the last one I'm giving it to friends who could use a better one. This morning at 6 a.m., the builders came knocking for their cords. Ick bro, I haven't seen them. Anyway, you're not supposed to use my power, didn't the GC tell you? Cue whining and complaining. Front door neighbor came in a clutch and start berating them for bothering me and leaving their tools outside. Are they stupid or what? Don't they know we have copper thieves around here? So they waited until 9 a.m. until the town's only hardware store open and bought new extension cords. For what? Ick, because my breakers are still turned off and will remain so as long as construction is ongoing. They came back with new cords, but no power from my house, so they left, having nothing to do. Today I spent my time installing my new security cameras around the house, just in case. Anyway, been meaning to do it. We do have serious theft issues around here. Next story. Revenge potato after tracking tag found. My kid's mother, my ex, is a control freak. We have shared care, weak about arrangements. She demands to know her daughter's every movement. Texts constantly, checking up on her, and a load of other overbearing nonsense. One of the reasons I left her also. My daughter is now well into her teens and fed up with the control. The ex tries to track her via various apps on my daughter's phone, however my daughter is savvy enough to disable this when she wants. So we went camping for a week in the summer with my new partner and her kids. I told the ex exactly where we were camping and our planned travel route. My daughter had had enough of the control and texts and turned off her phone as we left for the trip. We had to detour a bit due to roadworks, and soon I got a text from the ex demanding to know where we were going and why our daughter wasn't responding. I was surprised she knew we were off track a bit. Once we get to camp, we go looking and sure enough find an AirTag hidden in my daughter's bag. Both myself and my daughter were pretty unimpressed and almost dumped it in the garbage. Instead, we decided to have some fun. We were camping in a small town with a post office. We bought a large potato on which my daughter drew an angry face. Put the AirTag and the potato inside a sealed post bag and posted it to her mother. Over the next 6 days of camping, I received a series of increasingly agitated calls and texts from the ex about our whereabouts. She was freaking out as the tag traveled from our remote town, through another state and slowly back to her address. A week goes by fast and we head home. Dropped the kids off to their mothers and almost forgot about the package as it hadn't arrived apparently. A few days later I get an excited call from my daughter, who was grounded. The post bag had turned up at least a couple of weeks after sending. The potato had gone bad and turned to a foul-smelling mush in the bag that upon opening had spilled on the living room carpet, leaving a rotten mess with an AirTag in the middle. Even better, it was the ex who opened it. I wish I had been there to see her face. Apparently, it was worth the grounding. The ex still tries to control and track my kids, but doesn't have much luck. Next story. High school hockey player who was former owner of my phone number continues to give it out to high school girls. It's 2012 and I got a new phone and phone number, which goes okay for about a day. Apparently, my phone number used to belong to a high school hockey player in the area who was also quite the ladies' man. It was a spicy text or two at first, and then butt dials from the kid's mom. Not only had he gotten rid of the number that I had just gotten, but literally everyone was still trying to contact him at his old number. And then I realized the kid was giving out his old number to girls he went to school with at the time. Like, a lot of girls. Ranging from 14 to 18. I was getting a random number of girls texting daily, some saying some fairly explicit stuff, and they wouldn't take no for an answer when I told them I'm not the guy, repeatedly. So, hockey player is continuing to give out my number to girls he goes to school with, and apparently all of these girls know exactly who he is and are very hot for him and so happy to get his number, and he is very definitely playing what seems like dozens of girls over a very short period of time. Screw this guy. One day I start getting texts and it's two completely new girls, numbers I haven't seen yet, but definitely talking like he's got them both all worked up for who the hell knows what. So I tell them to come over. Tonight. Do I give them an address? No. Just, come over to my place, be there at 6 p.m. Where did they go? I have no idea. They both seem to know the address already, though. I didn't hear from anyone after that. Next story. Someone was giving my phone number to throw off debt collectors and solicitors. I found out who was doing it and directed them to contact her. So this started about a year ago with a campaign solicitation text saying, "Hi Donna, fake name, I have a few friends named Karen and they are the nicest ladies you'd ever meet. This is the headquarters of Candidate X. I'm running for county name and office. Can we count on your vote?" I would text back that they had a wrong number and get an apologetic response with a promise to remove my number. But I continued to get political, as well as real estate solicitations. "Hi Donna, I'm with XYZ Realtors. I was wondering if you were looking to sell your property at 123 Main Street." On top of that, I started getting calls from collection agents trying to reach Donna. No matter how many times I said they had a wrong number, they kept calling. Now these text numbers, based on their area codes, originated in the opposite end of the country where I live. With just a first name, a partial address and an area code from that region, I went online to do a reverse address lookup. I found a site where, when I typed in the start of an address, it brought up a pick list with possible combinations for the house number and street names. I found an address that was in a town that was part of the area code where the texts came from. Sure enough, the information pulled up Donna's full name, her full address and cell phone number. So I sent her the following text. "Hello Donna. You don't know me, but you apparently know my number. Please stop giving it out to solicitors, collection companies and campaigners. Thanks to online research, I have your name, address and phone number. So I will say it again, stop giving out my number." I don't know if this emboldened her because the texts kept coming. So I simply forwarded them to her and texted, "Whenever I get a solicitation in your name, I'm going to forward them to you." In addition, I would text solicitors back and provide them with Donna's correct cell number. I have not received a solicitation text since. As for the collectors, I have an app on my phone that converts text to speech so that I don't have to talk directly with robocallers and the like. Since I can preload text replies, I created one regarding Donna. So whenever I got a collection call looking for Donna, I provided this automated response. "You have the wrong number. This person, Donna X, has been giving out my phone number to deflect collectors from contacting her. I don't know her or even live in her state, but I managed to get some information about her thanks to some online research. Her correct phone number is XXX. The collections calls have since stopped, as well. So, Redditors, was I wrong to contact Donna and put her on alert? Or should I have just discreetly passed her number off to those trying to reach her?" Next story. Cheat on me. Well, good luck having your mistress take care off your lazy butt. This is not my story. This is my aunt's story. I am in her house because there is a family reunion. My aunt, let's call her Sarah. And her ex-husband Mac. This happened almost 10 years ago. My Aunt Sarah discovered her husband was cheating on her with a 25-year-old. He was 49 and my aunt was 42. They had 2 kids. Now a little backstory: my aunt was a stay-at-home mother. She was very health conscious. In our culture, people tend to overfeed you. But she was against it because people in our family have heart condition and diabetes. Mac was someone who liked to eat and lead a lazy life. My aunt always pushed him to do some exercise. The reason is none of the men in his family lived past 55. She wanted him to stay alive for the kids. She always cared for his health, did all his chores, and was a good wife overall. But it wasn't enough for Mac. He went on and cheated on her and blamed her. Because when he is with the mistress, he feels alive. The mistress doesn't force him to eat healthy or exercise. The mistress doesn't nag him all the time. My aunt was devastated. Her husband left her and soon she is going to be a single mom. So instead of wallowing in pain, she packed his stuff up and went to the mistress's house. She left those bags and had a long list. The list contained the number of medication he needs, what he needs to eat, his schedules, where he shops, what he likes to eat, etc. It's basically a manual of how to keep her deadbeat husband functioning. The way my aunt described the mistress's expression is priceless. It is like as if there was an explosion in front of her. Few days after she left, she would get constant calls from the mistress about her husband. She would complain he doesn't like the food she makes because it is not like hers. Even her ex-husband had the audacity to call her when his GF wasn't home so that she can come and cook. She would always hang up. They both called multiple times. My aunt turned them away each time. She got backlash for not caring, but she was stubborn in her decisions. Over the time, her kids also stopped visiting their dad because their dad knows nothing about the kids. It's been 10 years, she is divorced. She works as a teacher in a school. Her kids are all established and takes care of their mother. They barely talk to their dad. Aunt never got married. I think she doesn't want to either. On the other hand, Mac and his mistress are miserable. The last time I saw them, Mac looked fat. Like really fat. He had a heat attack last year. The mistress looks like she aged 20 years. She looks miserable. And whenever she looked at Mac, it seems like she wanted to kill him. I guess my aunt was the only one keeping him alive. But I'll give him credit for making past 55. Next story. 18 years after being pelted by yogurt, I returned the favor. The day before graduation my junior year, I was in the cafeteria waiting for the bell to ring for the end of lunch. It was common for students to start lining up at the doors waiting for the bell. I usually didn't and would just wait in my seat with my friends. The bell rang and I was about to stand up, when I was clobbered on the side of my head with an open Trix yogurt. Everyone was leaving and there was no indication as to who threw it. My friends helped me clean it off as much as possible and I stopped at the bathroom to try to wash it out. I got most of it out, but I had to hurry out to the football field for band practice. The band was practicing for the graduation ceremony the next day. So at noon, on the wide-open football field, the rest of the yogurt baked into my hair, and I was scratching dried yogurt out of my hair until I could shower. 15 years later. I'm sitting at the table with my cousins at my aunt's house. My younger cousin was talking about all the immature things he used to do in high school, including opening the Trix yogurts and tossing them over his shoulder. I said, "That was you." I then proceeded to tell the story of my ordeal while he busts a gut laughing at my misfortune. So 15 years after it happened, I found my yogurt pelter, and it was my annoying, younger cousin. For the past 3 years, at every get-together, he calls me over to tell the new person, the yogurt story. So, I've been planning for the past year, to get my revenge, by taking a yogurt and smashing it on his head. Tonight, at the seafood boil my family threw, I got my revenge. While he was sitting at the table, cracking open crab legs, I took the yogurt, came up behind him, and enjoyed smashing it all over his head. I rubbed it in and it went all down the side of his head, into his beard, and onto his shirt. Then I leaned down and told him, "We're even now." TLDR, 18 years ago I was hit with a yogurt at school. Didn't know who it was. 15 years after, I found out it was my cousin. He tortured me with it for 3 years. So I smashed a yogurt on his head to make us even. Next story. Neighbor drove out my driveway. This was years ago, actually decades ago. I was 25 when I was able to buy my first house. It meant a lot to me. I was just a laborer and it took everything I had to pay rent, eat cheap and save for the down payment. I didn't come from money, nor was I afforded any type of generational wealth. I had to get a conventional loan which had a higher interest rate. Plus the house had to meet certain requirements in order for the home to qualify for the loan. That means an inspector had to check the property and make an assessment. I met the inspector at the house. I was renting a home just one street over. The inspector showed me the list of things the homeowner had to fix. Two of the biggest were all electrical outlets needed to have dielectric grease on the connectors. House had aluminum wire, not copper. Long story longer, that helped prevent electrical fires. The other big thing was the soil around the house had to slope away from the foundation. I knew the sellers were not going to fix any of that stuff and someone else could afford to buy via cash or a different loan mechanism. I asked the homeowner if I could fix those items myself. They had no issues. I spent the next 3 days working non-stop doing exactly what needed to be done. On a Monday the inspector came out and said the ground sloping away wasn't good enough. I was there with him and told him I did the best I could and I was the person buying the home and I would do exactly what he wanted, but I first needed to secure the purchase. He looked at everything on the list and the dirt was the only item that was of issue. He must have took pity on me because I got the loan and stated to move in. The first issue I had was a neighbor across the street and two homeover kept parking in my driveway. Every time I came with a truck he had his car parked in my driveway. I didn't even know who owned the car. I started to knock on doors. One neighbor pointed me to the guy's house. He would not come to the door. I just as polite as possible yelling through the door that I need him to move his car because I am moving in. After 10 minutes nothing, so I went back and no very polite told him his car was now on a tow truck and I was giving him the tow truck company's card on his porch. It was amazing how fast he got to the door then. He opened the door and ran past me only to see his car still parked in my driveway. He turned around and said I lied. I said his car will be towed in about 10 minutes by the company I worked for, Tow Jam. He moved his car right then. I didn't work for a tow company, but it didn't matter. I believe it was a deterrent for him to believe it. Was it petty? I believe so. The next petty thing that took place was between myself and my next door neighbor. Our driveways were next to each other with a strip of yard that separates the drives as well as the properties. He had a young teenage son that was always working on his POS in their driveway. One day the kid drives off of his driveway and through my yard and out my driveway. I was a little ticked off. A little later he returns home and again drives to my driveway across my yard onto his driveway. I walk up to their front door, knock, and when the door opens I'm greeted with the teenager says, "What, dot?" I ask to speak with his dad or mom. He shuts the door and I don't hear anything. I walk back over to my home, get a lawn chair and sit on their porch. Every 10 minutes I knock on the door. Finally the kid says they aren't home. I said I'll wait. Another 5 minutes goes by and the dad finally steps out. He is just as a creep as his kid. I tell him what took place and said I don't want it to happen again and actions have consequences. Well, it happened again and now I'm really ticked off. I go and pull up a couple of dead rose bushes and plant them at the corner of my driveway. Go and knock on the door and when the father figure appears I walked him out and showed him my beautiful dead rose bushes. He noted that the bushes were dead. I asked him if that was his first house and he said no. I said this is my first home and I needed him to respect that. That the rose bushes were a symbol. That I could very easily plant spikes that would puncture tires and not thorns on a beautiful brown rose bush. He looked at me, nodded and went back inside. I heard yelling and from then on his kid didn't mess with my property. I want to add that I've been petty my entire life. Countless amounts of planning and being eat up with these types of silliness. After a lot of therapy and can finally say I'm a lovable, well-adjusted petty MFR LOL. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel our posts.